I used to think I was doing just fine. After all, I had made it past 70. I was taking things slow, enjoying the quiet, and letting the days unfold however they wanted. But somewhere along the way, I realized that not everything I thought was harmless actually was. Some of the habits I had slipped into, things I barely noticed, were quietly stealing time from my life. Not in dramatic ways, but in small, consistent ways that added up. I am not talking about big medical conditions or obvious dangers. I am talking about everyday choices, patterns I thought were part of normal aging that were slowly wearing me down. And here is the truth I had to face. The way we live after 70 matters just as much as how we lived before it. In fact, it may matter more. Today, I want to share with you 7 habits I personally had to confront. These are things I lived through. No borrowed advice, no theory, just what I saw happening in my own life and the changes I made once I realized what was really going on. I am not here to scare you. I am here because I believe it is never too late to take back your time, your health, your strength, your peace, and live the years you still have with more presence, more energy, and more joy. Habit 1. Isolating yourself. There was a time, not long after I turned 70, when days would pass and I would barely speak to anyone. I might get a short phone call from my daughter, or I would nod at the neighbor while getting the mail, but real connection, real conversation, just stopped happening. And I convinced myself that it was fine. I told myself I was enjoying the peace and quiet, that I had earned the right to be still. That solitude was something comforting. At first, it truly was. After a lifetime of work and responsibility, the stillness felt like a gift. But slowly and without warning, that stillness began to shift. The silence grew heavier. It lingered in the air. And one morning, I woke up and realized I had not laughed in days. I had not heard my own voice in any meaningful way. I was alone, and more than that, I was lonely. The truth is, loneliness is not always loud. It does not always look like sadness. It is quiet. It is invisible. It creeps in during the in-between hours, between breakfast and lunch, between television shows, between phone calls that never came, and it is dangerous, not just emotionally, but physically. Studies show that chronic loneliness increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, depression, and even early death. It affects your immune system. It affects your sleep. It chips away at your will to engage with the world. And for a while, I let it happen. I blamed age. I blamed distance. I told myself it was too much trouble to reach out. But deep down, I knew I was missing something essential to being human: connection. So, I made a decision. I started reaching out even when I did not feel like it. 1 person a day. That was my rule. It could be a short text to my granddaughter, a voicemail for an old friend, or even a brief chat with someone at the grocery store. I was not looking for deep conversations or hours-long visits. I was just opening the door to connection again. Some days, no one responded. Some days, I did not feel like talking at all. But I kept the habit. And slowly, the silence inside me began to shift. I felt seen. I felt remembered. And more than that, I remembered myself, the version of me that loves stories, that enjoys laughter, that still wants to belong somewhere. If you are finding yourself going days without meaningful connection, I want you to know this: it is not too late to change that. You do not need 100 friends. You just need a few moments each day that remind you you are still part of this world. Say hello. Make the call. Join the small group. Smile at someone and let it linger. Connection is not just for the young. It is for anyone who wants to live with a full heart at any age. And after 70, I believe it is one of the most life-giving choices you can make. Habit 2. Skipping real movement. There were seasons when I barely moved at all. I would wake up, sit with my coffee, maybe read the paper, and then move to my favorite chair in the living room. Hours would pass like that. Maybe I would get up to heat something in the kitchen, maybe go outside for a few minutes to check the mail, but that was it. No real movement, no stretch, no walk. And again, I told myself it was fine. I had done enough in my life, enough hard work, enough lifting, enough long commutes. I had earned the right to rest. But what I was calling rest was slowly turning into something else, something my body could feel. It started with small things. My legs felt heavier. I began using my hands to push myself up out of chairs. I was winded after one flight of stairs. My back stiffened in the mornings. At first, I thought, well, that is just aging. But one morning, as I sat on the edge of my bed trying to stand up, I realized something had changed. I was not tired from doing too much. I was weak from doing too little. The human body, especially after 70, does not respond well to stillness. It needs movement to stay alive, and the less we move, the faster our strength disappears. The truth is, aging does not take your mobility. Inactivity does. So I started moving again. I did not join a gym. I did not hire a trainer. I just started small. I walked to the mailbox and back, then a little farther. I stretched every morning while the coffee brewed. I set a reminder to stand up and walk around the house every hour. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. Little things, but they added up. My balance improved. My legs felt stronger. I was less winded, less stiff, less heavy in my own skin. It was not about exercise in the way we often think of it. It was about reclaiming motion, reconnecting with the rhythm of being alive. Now, movement is a non-negotiable part of my day, not because I want to look good or prove anything, but because I want to stay on my own 2 feet for as long as I can. I want to reach the top shelf without pain. I want to bend down to tie my shoes without fear. And most of all, I want to keep the independence I have worked so hard for. You do not need to become an athlete. You just need to move, walk, stretch, dance, sweep the porch, tend the garden. It does not matter what it looks like. What matters is that you do not let stillness take over your life, because when you stop moving, you are not just sitting still. You are slowly saying goodbye to parts of yourself that want to keep living. And I believe deeply that you still have places to go, people to see, and moments worth standing tall for. Habit 3, eating without thought. There was a long stretch of time when I ate whatever was easy. Frozen dinners, boxed cereal, buttered toast, canned soup, and way too many sweet things with my coffee. I would skip breakfast some days and overeat in the evening. And when I was alone, I would eat standing up in the kitchen or while watching television, barely paying attention. I told myself that food did not matter much anymore. I was not trying to impress anyone. I was not feeding a family. And honestly, cooking felt like too much work. But here is what I did not see. Those small mindless choices were catching up to me. Slowly, but surely. I started feeling tired. Not just sleepy, but sluggish in a way I could not explain. My joints ached more. My energy dipped in the afternoon. I would forget small things, and the fog in my brain was hard to shake. I blamed age. Everyone does, but deep down, I knew it was not just age. It was how I was fueling this body, and that is exactly what food is. Fuel, not filler, not background noise, not a reward or distraction. It is the very thing keeping your heart beating, your brain firing, your immune system running. And after 70, that fuel becomes even more important. So, I made a quiet decision. I was going to start respecting food again, not obsessing over it, not counting calories or following trends, just slowing down. Choosing better. I started with breakfast. Instead of skipping it or grabbing something full of sugar, I had a small bowl of oatmeal with walnuts and fruit. Then I added more greens at lunch, a bit more protein, less salt, and less processed food. I drank more water. I sat down when I ate. I lit a candle at the table, even when it was just me. I chewed slowly. I paid attention, and my body noticed. My energy came back. I felt less foggy. I slept better. My stomach calmed down. My joints hurt less. It was not about being perfect. It was about being intentional. Even on days when I have a slice of pie or indulge in something sweet, I do it with awareness, not guilt. Because at this age, food should be a gift. It should nourish, not numb. It should support the years we still have, not shorten them. If you are eating without thought, grabbing whatever is closest, skipping meals, or eating just to pass the time, I understand. I really do, but I want you to know this. Every bite you take is a message to your body. It says, I care about you, or it says, I have given up. You do not need to make big dramatic changes. Just start noticing. One better choice a day. That is all it takes. Your body is listening. And even now, even in this season of life, it is never too late to give it what it deserves. Habit 4. Ignoring sleep. There was a time when I thought poor sleep was just part of growing old. I accepted it like it was some sort of badge of honor. I would wake up 2 or 3 times a night, toss and turn for hours, then spend the next day feeling groggy, impatient, and unfocused. I stayed up late watching television, then took naps in the middle of the day, trying to catch up. But no matter what I did, I never felt truly rested. And I thought, well, this is just how it is now. But that thinking, letting go of sleep like it was a lost cause, was one of the biggest mistakes I made. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not optional. It is one of the most powerful tools we have for healing, both physically and mentally. And after 70, our need for quality sleep does not go away. If anything, it becomes more essential. Sleep is when the body repairs itself. It is when the brain clears out waste. It is when memory gets stored and when our immune system resets. Without deep, consistent rest, we become more vulnerable to illness, to depression, to confusion, and to accidents. I used to forget where I left things. I would repeat myself. I would feel angry for no reason. All signs of poor sleep. So I made some changes, not overnight, but gradually. First, I started going to bed at the same time each night, even on weekends. I turned off screens at least 1 hour before bed. No news, no loud shows, no scrolling. I dimmed the lights in the house after dinner to help my brain wind down. I stopped drinking caffeine late in the day, and I swapped heavy meals for something light. I made my bedroom a place for sleep only, quiet, dark, cool, and peaceful. And I gave myself permission to rest. That part was harder than I expected. For years, I believed that staying productive, even late at night, meant I was doing something useful. But what I needed was repair, not activity. Slowly, my sleep improved. I stopped waking up every hour. I began sleeping longer, deeper. I started waking up with energy, not the bounce of a teenager, but the steady strength of someone who has let their body truly rest, and everything began to feel easier. My mood lifted, my memory sharpened, even my appetite balanced out. If you have been brushing off sleep, telling yourself it is not worth fixing, I am here to tell you it is. Sleep is not weakness, it is wisdom. And your body, your incredible, aging, resilient body, wants to work with you, not against you. Give it what it needs. Build a rhythm. Respect your rest. Because good sleep is not just about feeling better tomorrow. It is about staying here longer with clarity and presence for the people you love and the life you still want to live. Habit 5. Neglecting mental stimulation. There was a period in my life after I retired when my mind started to feel a little dull around the edges. I was not forgetting anything serious, but I just felt slower, less sharp. I watched the same shows every evening, read the same sections of the newspaper each morning, and did the same crossword puzzles I had done for decades. It was comfortable, familiar, but I began to notice something. My curiosity had gone quiet. I stopped asking new questions. I stopped wondering about things. And that, more than anything, scared me. It is easy to assume that aging means mental decline is inevitable, but I have come to believe it is not just age that causes it. It is lack of use. The brain is a living, active organ, and like any other part of the body, it weakens when it is not challenged. When we stop learning, when we stop engaging with new ideas, the world around us shrinks, and eventually, so does the world inside us. That shrinking can feel safe at first, but it slowly disconnects us from life, from wonder, and even from ourselves. So I made a conscious decision. I was going to stretch my mind again. I started with something small. I picked up a book on birdwatching because I had always enjoyed watching them from my window, but never really knew their names or behaviors. From there, I listened to an audiobook about American history. Then I started learning Spanish. Not because I needed it, but because I wanted to remind myself that I still could. I wrote down new words. I took notes like I was back in school. Some days I struggled to remember things. Some lessons were slow, but I stayed with it, and something began to shift. My thoughts became clearer. I felt more alert. Conversations became more interesting because I had new things to say and ask. I felt proud of myself in a quiet, steady way. Not because I was achieving something big, but because I was growing. And growth feels good at any age. If you find yourself stuck in the same patterns every day, same shows, same games, same routines, I encourage you to try something different. You do not have to go back to school. You do not need to be great at it, but challenge your mind. Learn something new. Watch a documentary on a topic you know nothing about. Write in a journal. Try a new hobby that forces your brain to adapt. It does not matter what you choose. What matters is that you stay curious, because the mind, like the heart, needs exercise. And when you feed it with learning, with thought, with effort, you will find a part of yourself waking back up, a part that still wants to explore, to grow, to be alive in the deepest sense. Habit 6. Living without routine. I used to think that retirement meant freedom from routine. After years of waking up early, punching clocks, meeting deadlines, and running errands, I looked forward to living life without structure. So when I stopped working, I did just that. I let my days unfold however they wanted. I stayed in pajamas until noon. Meals happened when I felt like it. Some days I skipped shaving, skipped making the bed, skipped thinking ahead. I thought I was relaxing, and for a while it felt good. But then the days started to blur together. I would ask myself what day it was, and honestly, not be sure. I would start things and not finish them. Some days felt too long, others too short. I had more free time than ever before, and yet I felt restless, even hollow. That is when I realized routine is not just for the working years. It is for the living years, and I was still living. What I learned is that routine does not mean rigidity. It is not about having every hour planned or being productive all day long. It is about having small anchors that give your day shape and purpose. A reason to get out of bed, a sense of direction, a gentle rhythm. Without it, even joyful activities can start to feel meaningless. I needed something to hold on to, and it started with the smallest things. I began waking up at the same time every day. I made the bed. I took a short walk after breakfast. I read for 30 minutes in the afternoon. I made sure dinner happened at the same time, and I turned off screens 1 hour before bedtime. None of these were rules. They were choices. And those choices gave my days a kind of quiet dignity. And what surprised me most was how much better I felt, emotionally, mentally, even physically. I slept better. I felt less anxious. I found myself looking forward to certain parts of the day. Routine gave me something I did not know I was missing. Structure without pressure. Meaning without overwhelm. And the best part? I still had the freedom I craved. It just lived inside a framework that supported me. If you are drifting through your days without any real shape, I invite you to consider building just 1 or 2 simple routines. Start with something easy. A morning walk, a reading hour, a phone call after lunch. It does not have to be much, but it should be yours. A routine is not about control. It is about care. It is how we show up for our own lives, day after day, even in this quieter chapter. Habit 7. Holding on to bitterness. I used to carry around things I thought I had let go of. Old arguments, disappointments, regrets. Moments from years ago that would still come to mind when I was lying in bed at night or sitting alone at the kitchen table. I thought I had moved past them, but the truth is, I was still holding on. I had just gotten better at hiding it, even from myself. I would replay things people said, things I wished I had said back. I would feel the tightness in my chest, the weight in my shoulders, the bitterness that showed up in my thoughts, in my tone, and even in how I saw myself. For a long time, I thought that was just part of aging. When you live long enough, you gather your share of wounds. People let you down. Life does not always go the way you hoped. But what I did not understand, not really, was how much damage that bitterness was doing to me. Not to the people I was angry with, not to the situations that were long gone, just me. It was like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. My stress was higher. My sleep was worse. I felt tension in my body that I could not explain. And emotionally, I was tired. Tired of holding on. Letting go is not something that happens all at once. It is not a decision you make in a single moment. It is a slow, quiet process. And for me, it started with one thought. I do not want to carry this anymore. I wrote down the things I was still bitter about. I read them out loud to myself, and then I asked, is this pain helping me stay alive, or is it helping me stay stuck? Over time, I began to soften. I did not excuse what others had done. I did not forget, but I forgave for my own sake. Some of that forgiveness was directed toward myself, for the mistakes I made, for the words I cannot take back, for the ways I fell short. It is hard to look at those parts of yourself, but it is even harder to live with the weight of unspoken shame. Forgiving yourself is one of the most courageous things you can do, and it is one of the most healing. Now, when old memories rise up, I acknowledge them, but I do not dwell there. I say, that happened. I learned. I am still here. And then I return to the present, the only place life actually happens. If you are holding on to bitterness, I want you to know that it is never too late to lay it down. You are not weak for forgiving. You are wise for choosing peace, because carrying the past can shorten your future, and letting go, even little by little, can bring you back to life. You still have time. If you have made it this far with me, thank you. I know this was not always easy to hear. It was not always easy for me to say. Looking at the habits that slowly steal our time is not comfortable, but it is necessary. Because the older I get, the more I understand this one truth. Every day matters. Not just the big days, not just the holidays or the family gatherings or the doctor's appointments. Every single day that we wake up with breath in our lungs is a day we can shape, a day we can reclaim. These 7 habits crept into my life quietly. Not because I gave up, but because I stopped noticing. That is how it happens. We do not decide to live less. We just drift. And then one day we wake up and wonder where the time has gone. But here is the good news. It is never too late to pay attention again. It is never too late to choose differently. Not because we are trying to be perfect, but because we want to be present. If even one of these habits spoke to you today, I hope you do not feel shame. I hope you feel seen. And I hope you feel hopeful. Because the life ahead of you, no matter how many years it holds, is still yours to shape. You do not need to change everything overnight. Just start with one thing. One phone call, one walk, one kind meal, one good night's sleep. That is how it begins. I believe with all my heart that you still have time. Time to heal, time to enjoy, time to matter, and more than anything, time to live. Do not let anyone, including your own habits, steal that from you. You deserve to feel alive in the years you have left, not just in body, but in spirit. And I promise you, it is possible.